Hi, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. Before we get started in today's episode, please take this moment to rate the podcast. If this is your first episode, welcome. Otherwise, if you have a good idea of how you feel about She Shield, you can help us get our name out there by going to the top of wherever you are listening, top or bottom, and click on those stars and submit feedback. Like I said, it just helps us get out there. So if you've done that, thank you so much. This episode is sponsored by Big Tex Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear for responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. BTO values firearms training and supports firearms instructors nationwide. They even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors so that when you reach out as the client, you are taken care of. Welcome back, guys. This is part 2 with Jill. Today, we are going to talk about the dynamic of having a relationship with your partner, and I guess that's redundant. Being in a relationship at the same jiu-jitsu gym with your partner, and a little bit more specifics into the dynamic between Paul and Jill, which now that I'm thinking about it, it could be fun for you guys to come on together someday and talk about that. But I would love to just get your perspective now and dive deeper into your jiu-jitsu journey. In part 1, we discussed safety for healthcare workers and for women in general, people in general, and the importance of awareness and the importance of de-escalation and redundancy in training for that matter. So if you're interested in that topic, I highly recommend you go back to part 1 to meet Jill and to listen to that. In the meantime, Jill, welcome back. Let's get into part 2. So we talked a little bit before this episode about your dynamic with Paul. Would you go into that? And before I say this, I just want to reiterate, or before you go into that, I'd like to reiterate, if you have yet to listen to the Paul Sharp episode, please go there. You'll get the full picture. It is so lovely to hear Paul talk about Jill. I remember joking with my husband later. I was like, if you don't talk about me like Paul talks about Jill, then we have a problem. So Jill, take it away, please.
Thank you.
If you don't mind.
Thank you. Yeah, man, it feels good to know that your husband loves you and to love your husband so much. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, it's just the
Yes.
last 4 years have just been a dream come true for me. It's amazing. So
sweet.
Paul is my husband. He's my business partner. He's my coach. He is sort of, all of these things for me. It's, he has taught me so much. And I think, I'm trying to think, I know several husband, wife that train together. Matt Thornton and his wife, Salome, Travis Davison and his wife, Kisa, Dan Hart and his wife, Katie, Andy Stumpf and his wife, Leah. And so I definitely have a circle of friends, husband, wife, that train together, and a couple of them where, the husband is also her coach. But I've also heard a number of couples, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, who train together, but they can't train together. Like I've heard women say, oh my gosh, when my husband tries to tell me what to do, it makes me so mad. And I think it's really sad. And we see it too on the training line, when we teach pistol classes too. Sometimes, the husband-wife dynamic isn't always the best learning environment for either one of them. Sometimes it goes brilliantly, sometimes it doesn't. And we have to gauge that. But and I think too, in my prior relationship, that was the dynamic is, it wouldn't have been a good learning environment for me. So yeah, Paul is my coach. I love having him in the training room. I value his, decades of experience and the perspective. He sees everything. he's just a wealth of knowledge. And so I never fall into that trap of, if he's saying, you need to do this way, even though in my head I might think, well, that's what I was trying to do. That's not the point. I was trying to do it, but I couldn't get there, and he's helping me get there. So I've had to learn, but it hasn't been difficult. I have had to learn to be coachable, just take the feedback without feeling defensive or without making any excuses whatsoever. He saw what he saw, and I have to institute the change immediately. And so that's my approach. But there's something about having him in this space that gives me confidence. He sent me a picture a long time in 2020. I was recently divorced, and I was a new grad from nursing school, and it was COVID. And sort of my entire world had just been burned down. And he sent me this picture, and it's this woman walking. She's got a samurai sword slung across her back, and she's got a rifle slung across her front. Her glove is off of her trigger finger, trigger hand. The world behind her is completely burned out. And there's this massive tiger walking just behind her. And he was just like, this is you. And this is me. You just burned everything down, but you
so sweet.
you just burned everything down, but you're ready to walk right back into battle if you have to. And I'm here at your side, but just behind you. I'm here if you need me. I'm here when you need me. And that, kind of spelled out everyday sense, where it's not like I can't open my own doors, but Paul's gonna open them to demonstrate his love, respect, and devotion to me. He'll let me fight my own battles, but as soon as I look to him for reinforcement, then he's going to do whatever it takes, either to increase my confidence so that I can continue the fight, or, pull me back, or step in the center and, say, we're not doing this now though. So it could be any number of things, but I love that picture, and I love what it represents about our relationship. And I love that that's how he saw me. And so whenever we work together, that's just, what I think about. We are partners in every single way. I love seeing him in the training room. I love how he coaches people. I love how he can, lighten the mood and raise the vibe. And I don't know, he has this saying, love doesn't lie. And so he can tell you the truth. He would never lie to you. He will never, ever lie to you. He'll tell you the truth, but not in a way that destroys you or humiliates you, And so he's just so vital for, I don't know, I always say I refer to him as my son, because and he always refers to me as his world, so I am the world revolving around this, just like the solar power of the sun. And he just gives me all this energy and inspires and motivates me and holds me accountable. So, he's been I am so grateful to have him in my life. And I love sharing him with people. You know what I mean? I get so much
yes, I do
joy.
know what you mean.
I get so much joy seeing how people respond to him in the training environment too. He's so empowering for women when he teaches women's self-defense and things like that. And he never takes up, he doesn't, make you feel confident because he's there. Does that make sense? He would never take another he's
Yes.
not like, I'm this big, strong
Right.
alpha male and I'm in this space
Right.
because I'm a big, strong guy. You know, he
Right.
just has this way of helping you have the desire to see confidence within yourself and then, kind of build it up. And I love to see how people are around him and how he connects with them and how he just teaches them to see what they have to how to tap into that person inside them. So, yeah, I love watching him work.
Absolutely.
I love watching him teach. I really wish that everybody could take one class from him because it's just good stuff. So,
Absolutely. And if anything, it's a gauge for like what should we expect out of an instructor. And like I mentioned earlier, by the way, you just said so many beautiful things. I definitely almost teared up, and I don't do that on this podcast much. So thank you for sharing all of that. How lovely, truly lovely. Yes. So I'm not trying to switch subjects here, but I took that little workshop, and it was really cool to see him navigate what would be appropriate for the large spectrum of abilities that were in the room. And there were, I think, about 4 other women. We were all kind of grouped together per usual, and I'm always down for that. I'm always like, I can work with a guy, but not a lot of women feel comfortable working with men. So like, I'm happy to team up, and I'm not small by any means. I'm 5'10". I've got a lot of muscle. And not to brag, but, I always feel like I'm I give a good amount of resistance if needed, when it's appropriate. So it was really cool to see him really assess, a group of people he's never worked with before, all new people, and still make those 2 hours or 3 hours, it's been a while, impactful enough so that we could all walk home with something new. So that was really cool to experience. And I feel like I can speak to that in that micro way, but, I love that. And I love that you have that dynamic. And yes, that is something I hear a lot. It's like, I've even made this joke to Caleb before. There are some benefits. I have this tactical games training partner. He's training for something military related. And I am training for the tactical games in September. And, we were at this match the other day, and I was like at a USPSA match, and I was like, "Hey, did you put sunscreen on?" And he goes, "Nope." And I almost went like, oh, here's my sunscreen, and like put it on kind of thing, like I do with my husband. And he was like, "Oh, I don't need any sunscreen." And if it were my husband, I'd be like, "Caleb, I love you. I don't want you to get, skin cancer. So please put this on." But it was Logan. So I was like, okay, whatever. And like, to me, I was like, okay, conversation avoided, right? Like, we didn't have to go into that whole thing that I do with Caleb. And in my eyes, like, if that is the worst fight Caleb and I get in consistently is sunscreen wearing, I think we're doing pretty well. But it was kind of a funny thought. Like, I went to Caleb later and I was like, like, it was so quick with Logan because I didn't try to like control his, skin protection. But that's not to say that Caleb and I don't work well together. He's an incredible CrossFit coach, and I love learning from him. In fact, the only time it's hard to learn from him is because I'm attracted to him and I can't listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth. And I've told him before, I'm like, I didn't hear anything you said. And he's like, Sophia, stop it. Like focus. We're in public. And I'm like, yes, I know, but you're just so pretty. So, totally funny sides of those, a lot of different dynamics. But, when it comes to you both, and, you can decide how you want to speak on this, but what qualities would you say are most important for that dynamic to be successful in a relationship?
yeah, that is a big question.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. I think we talked about this a little bit in the before we started part 1. We talked a little bit about the lost art of being a gentleman, and we talked about women. Well, okay, I'll say it this way. I feel like men and women both have some work to do. And one of the things, let me share an anecdote. Sorry, this got really confusing, but let me share an anecdote.
Oh my gosh, no. I'm
So
following.
one thing that I wasn't used to when Paul and I started dating and he moved here and um, we got married was having a man around that opened every door for me, that put my coat on every single time I needed to put my coat on. And he didn't just put my coat on for me, he lifts my hair out of the back of my coat. I mean, he straightens me up. Sometimes, I don't know why, sometimes I forget to tuck my pockets of my jeans in. And so he's like, let me put your pockets in.
I feel that.
So he's just keeping me neat and tidy, but he does all of these
I love that.
incredibly thoughtful things. It opens every single door and I love it. And there was a time when I would have said, I'm a strong, independent woman and I don't need no man opening my doors for me. And what I didn't recognize by eliminating the opportunity for somebody to do that for me was that I wasn't allowing them an opportunity to demonstrate their love and devotion to me. And that is where,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so kind of fast forward, Paul and I have been married for a couple of years, and my daughter lived with us at the time. And she was talking to me about her and her boyfriend. And she was saying, oh my gosh, Mom, I love how Paul treats you. I love how he treats you. I love how he puts your coat on and opens your doors. And she's saying all these things. And of course, I'm rejoicing that she is seeing this behavior demonstrated, that she recognizes that it is valuable and important for our marriage, and that she desires to have that as well. And so she said, I really wish that Jordy would do that for me. And so the four of us went out to dinner together and we're walking side by side and we're approaching the restaurant, and she makes a beeline for the door. Right, walking ahead. She's a leader. She wants to be ahead of the pack and always has been. So she makes a beeline for the door, gets to the door, opens the door, just kind of bursts into the inside of the restaurant and like, table for four, please. You get what I'm saying, right?
Oh God, that's me.
And
Yes.
so I
Yes.
pulled her aside and I said, hey, listen, Amelia, if you want Jordy to, put your coat on for you, open your car door, open the door of the restaurant, whatever it is, you have to give him the opportunity to do that. You have to give him the space and the time and the opportunity to do those things. You can't rob him of it. And that's what you just did. So I think that's where we need to, what I needed to work on was, you create the space, you create the expectation, like, I got to give you time to open the door for me. And then I'm going to recognize the extraordinary gift that is as a sign of just, respect, love, and devotion to this relationship. And so I feel like that's a real lost art. And I don't know why we as a society and culture decided to devalue that. I was raised in a household. My dad always opens my mom's car door for her and helps her in the car and, helps her with her coat on. And so I was raised in that environment. And in my first marriage, I had mentioned that multiple times, like, why didn't you do this? And he just didn't feel like it was important. And, so there's two problems there. First, that he didn't feel like it was important. Second, when I mentioned it to him, he didn't hear me. He didn't appreciate or respect that I was asking to have a shift in our relationship. And, and that kind of, that leads to a bunch of other problems. And so, I don't know why we decided to devalue that. I don't know why we decided to look at men who were being, respectful and loving and tell them that behavior was toxic and controlling and, patriarchal or any other word you want to use for it. It's not. It's recognizing feminine energy and masculine energy and making sure that they are equally balanced and that they're coming together so that we can have the ultimate partnership. If you can do those things and show respect and
Absolutely.
love in those small ways, then you can have difficult conversations. You can talk about anything. So, those were sort of like the simplest signals that I got from Paul that, really reinforced to me that we were on the same page, that you felt the same way about each other. And those kind of consistent daily messages that still happen, today, 4 years later, those are really crucial and important and affirming to us. So, looking back, definitely getting into, a second marriage for me, a third marriage for him, myself as a 44-year-old woman and him as a 52-year-old man, you have a lot of experience at that point. You kind of know what you want and what you don't want. But you also have a lot of ingrained patterns that you probably have to overcome. And I had a lot of things to overcome. I had to be brutally honest with myself, and I had to have some really difficult conversations with myself, and he did too. But I think having him, like, I don't know if you know this about Paul, but he is a formally trained and ordained minister.
I do remember that coming up in the episode. Yes. And it always takes me by surprise again, even though I'm not truly surprised, just because of the way he conducts himself.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It
I don't
does.
know.
It's fascinating to me. And so, he had this formal training, and then he was a professional musician. And then he has put so much effort, so much time, so much money into developing himself in, martial arts, all martial arts, and becoming an instructor and just doing all of the stuff. And it made him very well equipped to, kind of break me down, not in a humiliating, horrible way, but really break me down, break me open, and give me the tools to rebuild myself into who I needed to be and how I needed to show up for this marriage. I mean, it's indescribable, the change that happened inside of me. And, but I think people should always continually be attempting to grow and experience personal growth. I think it's one of the things that Jiu-Jitsu offers us is comfort with adversity, challenge, conflict, pressure, all of this kind of stuff. And it really forces you, or maybe it doesn't for everybody, but it can. I can't even say it should. I mean, it should, but it can offer you the opportunity to, make what's the word I'm looking for? Just like look at yourself in a really hard way, and really develop some insane self-awareness, and then start making changes and grow up. I don't know, personal growth, it doesn't end, and being open to that maybe you're wrong about some things is pretty awesome.
Are you ready to step up your shooting game? Introducing Walkers Incorporated, the pioneers in ear protection for shooting, hunting, and commercial applications. For over 25 years, Walkers has been revolutionizing the industry, ensuring your hearing safety and enhancing your shooting experience. Anytime I'm on the range, indoor or outdoor, I use Walkers ear protection to have crystal clear communication with my fellow shooters. I currently use the Silencer 2.0s and the Razor Slims for my range adventures. Not only does Walkers protect your hearing, but they also protect you. Being able to communicate with others on the range is vital to personal safety. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your safety when the ultimate goal is for overall better self-protection. With walkers, you'll experience unparalleled comfort, unmatched innovation, and the industry standard in shooting ear protection. Never settle for anything less when it comes to your safety and enjoyment on the range. You can save on Walker's ear protection and support the podcast by using code SHESHIELD. That's SHESHIELD at checkout. Yes. Man, all of that was so lovely to hear. I just want to start this by saying thank you for being so vulnerable and being willing to share this on the podcast episode. I know it's speaking to me quite a bit. I'm just like your daughter. I'm 26. I have a long ways to go, but I've found that my parents divorced when I was 8, and because of that, my mom was this, like, I literally bought her Father's Day cards on Father's Day, and I wouldn't buy my dad a card some years. It was that kind of dynamic in our family, to like just give you that almost picture to express that. My mom was always my superhero on like those kid assignments in elementary where they ask you to, draw your superhero and stuff. 'Cause she became like the patriarch. And growing up, I wanted to do that and sustain that for myself, just so that if I needed to protect myself one day, or my partner left me like my dad left, that I would be like this unit that like no one would break, and it led to this very unhealthy dynamic. It took 7 years of ongoing psychobehavioral therapy with an incredible therapist, to work and detangle that, and then like create a new type of, construct for relationships. And, even with 7 years of that, like, I mean, it has been a journey to let my husband be the man and be the leader. And he has to remind me and be gracious and patient with me, because that was just so deeply ingrained. So a lot of what you said just spoke to me on like a very personal level, and hopefully to listeners today, hearing this episode. So thank you for sharing that. Seriously, it was awesome. I am curious, feel free to expand on that, by the way, if you thought of anything else, but there is a topic that I feel like may be the exception to the rule. And that may not be the best way to say that, but I have heard of situations where it may not be the best thing for a partner to teach their spouse, their partner. One example I can think of is with firearms instruction. I have a lot of women that come to me. I say a lot, I'm very new to teaching, but so far the majority of the women that have come to me were first empowered and taught by their partners, and their partners did not know the proper safety. What am I trying to say? Safety lessons to prioritize in the beginning. Once the woman said something like, I want to carry, but holstering a gun, a hard piece of, metal to my body is hard. The husband buys them a purse, doesn't teach them proper trigger guard protection, proper holstering, proper separation from the rest of the things in the purse. And then you get these women that accidentally shoot themselves, shoot their children, or, allow access to an unauthorized person to the firearm. And so with that said, there are times where I've told, men that are close to me that ask this question, of like, should I teach her or not? I always give them this context, because it's not always in my opinion, the best move to be your partner's teacher for certain things. I know that when I taught Caleb in the very beginning gun things, first of all, oh my God, I cannot believe I taught him anything. Secondly, I did not do it as graciously as I could have. I also did not even know where to start. So I just kind of showed him what I kind of knew. And that could have led to a dangerous outcome, or just, it has not led to at least a place where, well, looking back, I'll just say this, looking back, I wish I would have just provided us with a class to take together, something of that sort. So how do you feel like people can find that balance in that perspective to know whether or not that's best for them in the context of jiu-jitsu or anything else you would be willing to speak on?
Yeah, I think there's the formal training environment, right? Where we always have the safety talk, we always decide who's going to drive the truck, where the closest hospital is, where the medical kit is, who's going to be on point in this situation. And in the formal training environment, that's what starts the hour. You know what I mean? But then when we find
Yes.
ourselves in our home setting with our spouse, showing him the new pistol, she has no experience. He's got just enough to, there isn't, I think Mickey Shook talks a lot about having a system. Paul talks about having a system. Z Durham talks about having a system. No matter informal or formal, there needs to be a system that you start with and move forward with. And so that's the first, crucial gap, is that, it's not like husband and wife sitting down at the table and he's going, okay, well, first we want to prioritize safety. So here's how we make sure that we're safe. Okay, now, and there just isn't a system to run through this introduction. And so it seems very natural for, for boyfriends to be introducing their girlfriends to a firearm, or husbands, they're introducing wives to a firearm and things like that. But they're not, gosh, I feel like I want to be really delicate here, but I also want to be realistic in that we have to prioritize safety,
Right.
and we have to be responsible firearm owners, and we want a learner to have the best first experiences they possibly can. And, and so just go to a formal class, just like you said, on reflection. After so much experience, as you reflect back on your own, you wish you would have done things different. And so it would be really valuable if people just didn't have to learn the hard way, and they just found, a good training environment right from the very beginning. Another thing
Absolutely.
that happens, I think, especially with female shooters, is their first introduction is out in the desert or out in the mountains with this super high caliber weapon, and they blast it and they go flying back, and then they're terrified, but everybody around them is laughing. That's another thing that is just right. It doesn't start you off well. And so I don't know. I mean, people are going to people, and people are going to people. And I think the only thing that I can hope for is that they find people like you, people like Paul, people like Mickey, people like Z, that they find these people sooner rather than later. And that's really the best we can hope for. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
oh yeah.
There's a time and a place for couples to be working and learning and teaching each other, but you also need to recognize your own deficiencies, and it's okay to say, I'd really like you to learn how to carry. I'm not a firearms instructor. Let's get you a class. That's simple.
Yes. And it's a great gift. I had a guy email me recently and set up a lesson with his wife and I, and we had a great time together, and they're coming back as a couple soon for a private lesson together. He gave her that space to have her first experience alone with a female, and is going to step in next. And I just want to give him like a trophy. I'm like, dude, you did this right. Like, not many men do this. So congratulations, and then I compare that to my, I'll say it like this, a woman that I've trained around at a local gym. She showed me her concealed carry setup in a fanny pack lately. There was no protection on the trigger guard. In fact, when she opened it, she did it so carefully so the gun didn't fall out. And I was like, hey-o, let's talk about that. Of course, I first said, hey, would you be open to some feedback? And she was like, yes. And I was like, so that caution that you just opened that bag with, let's put that in a context in a high stress situation where you're moving and you have a baby in one arm. Like, this is going to be a little different, right? Than you showing me this gun, to show me your gun. Cause she was like, I don't even know what it is. Like, let me just show you kind of thing, you know, and I'm over here like, is it loaded? Just curious, like really quick. You know, that kind of thing. You're like ready to tackle them, politely, you know? So, right. So, you know, two varying situations where she has talked about how, you know, she doesn't need a class because her husband teaches her. And I'm like, yeah, no, for sure. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. Have you considered, you know, or I'll say like, what does your husband do? Well, you know, he grew up shooting. Awesome. I also grew up shooting, but I didn't know how to clear a malfunction until about a year ago. So, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, all of that to say, would you say that in your situation with Paul, having been an established instructor, that maybe that was, would you say that that is kind of a unique situation? Or would you say that, like back to part one, which if you haven't listened, go back there, with the informal leadership, that could also be a manner in which it's appropriate to kind of guide someone through?
Well, just to kind of go back, I was raised in Idaho, right? And kind of always saw myself as, oh, well, I was raised around guns. My dad hunts and, you know, whatever. My dad hunts. And in my prior relationship, we had a Glock. I shot maybe, I don't know, 20 rounds through it or something like that. So I considered myself, when I met Paul, I considered myself a gun owner, a responsible gun owner, right? So I can
Yeah.
see, I remember what that feels like. You know, there's so much about my previous life that I remember. And I just think I took a concealed carry class in probably 2011 or 2012. And, you know, so I considered myself a responsible person, but I had zero experience. I had, you know, like definitely double digits rounds through an actual pistol. Okay, so I can remember what that felt like. And I think we just underestimate the value of high quality instruction. And what is spending $150 to go through foundational, fundamental principles, build a really solid structure, base, grip, you know, completely dry, and then move into, by the end of 4 hours, shooting 300 to 500 rounds through the pistol that you're going to carry. That's completely different from, you know, I took this class but never fired around. Or my husband has a pistol and I've never even locked the slide back or dropped the mag or anything else. You know what I mean? But so
Right.
I think somehow
Yeah.
adjusting the mindset for people so that they place value on high quality instruction, and then, you know, go as a family. Well, one of the really cool experiences that Paul and I did last year was we took my family to the range. I have a
Ooh,
really big
okay.
family. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and everybody's married and everybody has a bunch of kids. And we did this, you know, family
Oh my
reunion.
goodness.
And one of the activities that they wanted to do was take a class by Paul. And so we took them all out to the range, and we worked the range. And you know, they were just like I was. You know, maybe they were gun owners, but really didn't have any experience manipulating the pistol in any way, or really ever, you know, holding an AR and firing a rifle off, or anything like that. But man, to see your family adjust from, you know, dry fire, just manipulating the pistol, to then firing some rounds off, to then moving and shooting, you know, to watch them progress and to see their confidence increase over that 4 hours was so dynamic. it was awesome, and it was so meaningful for them. And so, somehow as a community, I feel like we really need to reinforce uh, to people over and over and over again, high quality training is priceless, and that saying yes to those sorts of opportunities are the things that change you from the inside out. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's absolutely lovely. Yes, kind of just encouragement to step up the game and do that. And one could argue ammo is expensive on the gun part, on the gun side. Ammo is expensive, so might as well spend that time with an instructor that will utilize that ammo with you very diligently, not just kind of blasting through rounds. The difference between, Hunter Constantine talks about this, and it should be the episode before yours, actually. So if you're listening, you heard this, I guess you get to hear it again. The difference between kind of thoughtful practice and training compared to like just having fun. And in the beginning, it's easy to pick up on bad skills if you don't have like formal instruction and like get into training scars and things like that. So I think that's lovely. And that family reunion idea sounds like so much fun. So that is so cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure they were all like blown away.
It's awesome. And so now my sister is putting a training group together to bring us down to Utah so that she can, expose her community of people to it. It's awesome. And that's how, the work that we're doing, not that we are doing, but that we are all doing, is so vital. The messages that you're bringing forward, just empowering women to take their safety, and people, men and women, to take their safety very serious, to take the safety of their children and their loved ones very, very serious. And we don't have to be, paranoid. I don't walk around, paranoid thinking that somebody's going to jump out and get me around every single corner. But I do feel well prepared. I do think about having a plan in these sorts of situations. They're really, really awesome mental exercises. It's cool to have the skill to clear your own home if you needed to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes.
I love skills development. I love personal growth. There aren't too many things that I'm going to say no to. I had never pictured myself working my way through the shoot house at the site in Illinois, but I did it, and I realized, man, There is a method to getting this done in the safest way possible. There is a method to, understand the layout of your home and where to expect your children to be, and how to be safe and clear your own home without hurting the people that you love. It's so cool to develop these skills, and it's so important, and it's not out of paranoia, it's out of preparedness. Paul lived in Florida during Hurricane Andrew. And if you want to experience change in human nature, find yourself in the center of a massive natural disaster where resources are slim. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's not just a home invasion or, a burglary or somebody stealing my purse or somebody lurking in the shadows. It's any possible event, a car accident, a natural disaster. Anything could happen at any moment, and I want to have the skills to be able to cope with that. And it's super fun, and it's fun to train, and it's also really awesome to know that you possess the skill to act. And I want people to be more into it. And so that's where I feel like the messages that you're bringing forth, the work that Mickey does, all of the people in this community do, it is really, really crucial and vital work. It's very important. And I also want it to be fun, so, and I think we're all doing that really well. So.
Absolutely. I've noticed the most influential people in the space, the ones that are able to engage with the community the most, are the ones that they're technical. They have the knowledge, but they also stress the importance of fun. I've been picking up on that recently a bit more. And I think it's, it could be trial by fire. It could be just how they handle things from the get-go, but people just learn better, absorb more information, are more open to learning when there's an element of enjoyment and empowerment. So I love that you brought that up, and thank you for saying that. That's part of the goal of this podcast, is to bring resources to people for this information, empowerment, and, of course, a little entertainment. It's always fun to go into funny topics, but this has been very illuminating, and I hope that someone listening out there can take from this episode as an example of how to be a partner that is supportive, and how to balance that with offloading that to someone else who's maybe more skilled to do that job. Because even now, I don't tell my husband like, hey, I got you, I'll teach you everything. I'm like, no, can you come to the Guardian conference in September? Can you I wanted to go to ECQC in Vermont, but it didn't work out in June. And I was like, can we go to that together? Like, could that be our honeymoon kind of thing? Because we still need to do our honeymoon. So all of that to say, there's quite a balance here, a delicate balance. And I really appreciate your willingness to come on and share your stories and dynamic with all of us listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Seriously. Oh, absolutely. Did you feel like there was anything else on the kind of couples dynamic side that would be helpful, or that you feel like we didn't touch enough on? Or do you feel like that was a pretty good kind of representation of it?
Yeah, I think, I think this goes along to just goes along with boundary setting in general, with all of our personal relationships. I think now we're in a time where it's very easy to blur boundaries. And what do I want to say here? I really want people to treasure their partner. I want people to treasure their relationship and treat it as such, and just work every day, not just to, reinforce your partnership with words, but through small actions. We talk about, you hear a lot, deeds over words, deeds over words. Your
Yes.
deeds, your actions, the things that you do when no one is looking or when everyone is looking, that should reinforce the things that you're saying. And so just be brutally honest with yourself, who you are, how you're acting, and treat yourself and your partner like the treasure that it is. Honor that, be fiercely loyal, and always act with, duty and honor, I would say. Now that my first marriage was a 24-year relationship. It was a 22-year marriage. That's a long time, and it's a big thing to kind of burn down. But experiencing 4-year, like opening myself up, breaking myself apart completely, rebuilding myself with this person has been amazing. And I want everyone to experience it. I even want people to experience the pain of it. It's good stuff. So I don't know if I could,
absolutely.
on the relationship side of things, if I could encourage people to, if you need a hard reset, do a hard reset, but be brutally honest with yourself first. And then picture your marriage, your relationship, how you want it to be, and do whatever work to get there. It takes two, so.
Absolutely. Yes, it does take two. I honestly, man, before today, I'm so quick to, and hopefully this just helps someone out there. I'm so quick to tell Caleb, hey, I need you to do this. And I'm not as quick to ask myself how I can help facilitate that if that makes sense. So like the whole like rushing to the door, I talked to him about like, hey, please, you know, get doors. And he does. He's so good at that. But you know, sometimes I'll get there so fast, and he'll either be like, Sophia, like I was going to get that, or I'll be like, you didn't get there quick enough. And it's like, it's really making me think about how I facilitate his contribution to the relationship. And it's really making me think like, yeah, this has been very eye-opening for me personally. So.
It's been, I mean, it's good stuff. It's such good stuff. It just,
yes,
it feels amazing. And I had to learn it too. It took me a really long time. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I wasn't even like planning on, you know, like asking you all those questions, but just from our conversation in the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, this has got to be out there. I get the question all the time of like, should I train my significant other? And I'm excited to be able to reference this episode to anyone in need of it. So thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yes. And if anyone is interested in checking out Jill's socials, as you should, this is all linked in the show notes, along with all of the other resources mentioned in today's podcast episode. If you guys are interested in the full video version of this, I always say this a little too late, you can head over to YouTube. I mean to say this in the beginning of the video. So please check that out there. It's always fun to see all of the facial expressions. Sometimes guest speakers bring in like little visual aids. So that's good. For episode highlights, you can check out our Instagram and TikTok at SheShieldPod. As mentioned, all resources will be in the show notes, which are the notes below the title. And if you liked the podcast, you can sincerely help by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. And then if you or anyone you know is a firearms owner experiencing a crisis, look into holdmyguns.org. They are an organization that will connect you with a local gun shop or FFL to store your firearm for you until you are ready to get it back. It is linked in the show notes. Thank you for listening. In the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Are you searching for a brand you can trust when it comes to shooting and gun care products? Look no further than Birchwood Casey. Since 1948, serious shooters, avid collectors, and professional gunsmiths have relied on Birchwood Casey. They've been in the game for over 70 years, providing us with products that have stood the test of time. From their legendary True Oil gunstock finish to the dependable Perma Blue, Birchwood Casey's commitment to quality is unmatched. Birchwood Casey has also revolutionized the way we train and improve our shooting skills with their innovative Shoot NC targets. These targets let you see your shots instantly, making it easier than ever to track your progress and become a better marksman. Head over to birchwoodcasey.com today and discover the products that have earned the trust of shooters worldwide. Use code SHESHIELD to save and to support the podcast. That's SHESHIELD at checkout.